SportsCenter's 50 States in 50 Days takes us to Green Bay, Wisconsin. There you see the quarterback. That's Jordan Love getting some work in earlier today. We are indeed at Packers training camp, and it is packed with people that bleed the green and gold here today. Sometimes we got to take a break from football. You know, we're going to talk a little hoops because this state feels like they're good at everything right now. The Brewers are on fire. The Packers are getting going, and we got Shaka Smart, the head coach of Marquette basketball, joining us here now. So good to be with you, Shaka. Thank you so much. First of all, I'm going to brag on them for just a minute. 4 seasons with Marquette, they made the tournament every year. Yeah. No big deal. But you and Coach LaFleur have kind of developed this relationship, right? Like sometimes he goes to your games and practices. You come here with your players. How did that all come to be?
Well, he's been great. We've just had a mutual connection that connected us. We brought our team up here a couple years ago, and we got to do team building in Lambeau Field, which was a lot of fun. Came out here to watch practice. Coach LaFleur actually let me speak to the guys after practice, so it's been a ton of fun being associated with the Packers.
You know, Coach, you now coach at Marquette, where basketball is such a huge deal, and obviously we're down here in Lambeau, and you can see all the fans just stationed everywhere. Tell me what makes Wisconsin sports fans so passionate.
They're very loyal. I grew up in Madison, and if you're not a Packers fan in this state, then you're wrong. You know, basketball-wise, there's a couple different options. Obviously, the Bucks on the pro side, but being at Marquette, there's a real special sense of loyalty and pride in the university and in the team, and our guys can feel it. So it's really meaningful to be at a place like that.
I know you're a Jordan Love fan.
Huge. I got to sit next to him today.
That's right.
I sat in the quarterbacks meeting. This was like, I'm like pinching myself. It's me, Jordan Love, and Matt LaFleur, and I'm like, one of these things is not like the other. But it was great to be able to sit in there.
So how did that fandom come to be? I mean, this is only his 3rd year as the starter here in Green Bay.
Well, he came to a game a couple years ago, and his humility is what struck me. Also, he looks like a basketball player.
Yes.
Like he looks like he could step foot on the court. They like to say in scouting, that's what they look like. So he could step foot on the court and hold his own. In fact, he won the shooting competition this morning in the team meeting against a defensive player.
You know, Coach, you talk about the connection to Jordan Love, sitting with Matt LaFleur, getting an opportunity to speak to the team. How huge is it to have that connection with a Marquette and your players, along with the Green Bay Packers here, to show, hey, this is the next step, this is professionalism, but this is also sort of the connectivity of the teams within the state?
It's a great point, Ryan, because sometimes, and you know this, when you're playing for a university, you can get in that little bubble, and you can feel a lack of perspective sometimes. So being here around the Packers lets us understand that, hey, there's a lot bigger things going on than us. It also gives us an opportunity to learn from people doing things at a high level. When I sat in on the quarterbacks meeting this morning, for example, the level of capacity that those guys have for learning and for communicating and retaining information was through the roof.
Let's talk a little bit about your squad. Number 16 recruiting class coming in. Nigel James, I believe, is who headlines the whole thing. So tell me a little bit about your squad this year.
I love our squad, love our guys. We do it a little bit different. We really, really try to prioritize our returning players and our incoming high school players. So we did not add anyone from the transfer portal. A lot of people look at us like we're crazy with that, but we prioritize relationships. That's a huge part of what we do. Every week it's different team activities, and we spend a lot of time every day on personal growth. Obviously, the player side is important, but the personal growth, helping these guys grow as people because they're in such a formative time of their lives.
It's interesting because the Packers kind of take a similar model, right? Very homegrown this team is. There's not a lot of trades that happen, especially at the quarterback position. Marquette, very similar. You just mentioned you didn't really go to the transfer portal. How are you able to do that? Because every other basketball coach I talk to, the transfer portal is such a headache. How are you able to do that?
Well, I think it's because of the guys we have and the families that they come from. The parents have never been more important than they are today in college sports because, think about it, in the spring there's a decision to make. Do I go back or do I go somewhere else? And that's a family decision. And so when the family's on one accord with the coaching staff in terms of the development of the young man, put basketball aside for a second, but his development as a person, then we really got a chance to have some connectivity.
Yeah, it says a lot about you as a head coach, too.
You know what, too, Coach? Dabo Swinney sort of subscribes to the same sort of mindset, right? He wants to develop the players that they recruit and be homegrown. Why is that important to you, though?
Because I'm a kid that was raised by a single mom who looked at my coaches like they were 10 feet tall. And for me and my development as a player and as a person, that was everything. So I don't think that we can beat our chest about saying growth really matters to us and then bring 5 or 6 grad transfers over the top of our young players, because that's going to stunt their growth. And that's not to take away from other people's way of doing things. The great thing about sports, as you know, is there's a lot of different ways to skin a cat. It's just how we choose to do it. We call it our way.
I love it.
All right, so Coach has an open practice. July 31st, the Golden Eagles will have an open practice at the Al McGuire Center. Are we inviting any Packers to roll through?
The Packers are busy. The Packers are getting ready for week 1.
Yeah.
But certainly any basketball fans in the Milwaukee area that want to take in some great hoops. And that's one of the cool things about being at a basketball school, is that we'll have an open practice in July, and it'll be really well attended.
That's awesome.
Hey, Coach, I love that. And for you, Coach, what's the next step for your team? We obviously see you guys in the NCAA tournament year after year after year. How do you take that next step and advance?
Great. It's a great question. I think the next step for us is continual growth in understanding what goes into winning. I'm a firm believer that before you can know what goes into winning, you have to know what goes into losing. And so understanding at a high level what our advantages are, because every team has advantages and no team is perfect, but really pressing and leaning into those, that's the key for our team this year. And really taking advantage of the connectivity that we have because of the relationships and the time we spend on it.
Well, something that Death Taxes seeing Shaka Smart in March, I feel like, is what we're all saying, right?
Absolutely.
Shaka, we really appreciate the time.
Thank you, guys.
Enjoy training camp. We'll catch up with you soon.
Thank you,
Coach.